Welcome in Game of Thrones reaction show. I hope all of you are having a fantastic Sunday. We got a lot to dive into. I want to let everybody pile in on both Facebook and on Periscope. My name is Clay Travis, and we have got maybe the greatest episode in television history that we just had the cliffhanger for. Now, before we go any further, I want to talk about this cliffhanger for a minute. I am telling you right now that we will never have an episode more sought after than the way that just ended. There is a 1,000,000,000% chance that every living human would have clicked play if they were able to immediately go to episode 3. 100% of everyone who watches Game of Thrones would have stayed up as late as possible, as late as necessary, in order to be able to click play on that next button. You know how if you're watching Netflix or if you're watching pretty much any on-demand service, it immediately takes you on to the next episode? I'm telling you right now, every single person out there would have gone for the next episode. Now, before I go into my notes here and take you through this episode, I want to hit you with a final scene that I think was significant. And I'll circle back to this at the end too. But everybody who just watched saw Jon Snow finally tell Daenerys that he is in fact her nephew, that her brother is his father, right? Almost immediately, as we have like the rising crescendo, literally the horn blows, because the White Walkers have arrived. They walk outside on the ramparts. And did you notice how each of them stood on either side of Tyrion? I'm telling you right now, and I haven't read very many people saying this, but I am telling you, Tyrion is a Targaryen too. That's what they're showing you over and over and over again. There are 3 Targaryen offspring. Jon, who we just found out about. Daenerys, who we've known about throughout the entirety of the season. And Tyrion, whose father was the Mad King and who had an affair with Lannister. Tyrion doesn't know it yet, but my argument here is that Tyrion is a Targaryen. And that scene, if you go back and watch it after you watch this show, go back and watch it and ask yourself, why in the world, of all the people that could be standing outside on the ramparts, do Jon and Daenerys walk outside from the crypt and immediately stand alongside of Tyrion, literally with him in between them? A lot of you are triggered. I happened to glance over at the comments. I want all of you to apologize to your boy when this ends up being true, that Tyrion is a Targaryen and that Tywin Lannister is not actually his father. There have been little details spliced all throughout the show that would suggest this might be true, okay? And in particular, remember years ago when Tyrion approached the dragon and the dragon let him approach? I don't know how Daenerys didn't know that Jon was a Targaryen the minute he rode the dragons. In fact, I kept waiting for Jon Snow to say, bitch, I rode the dragons. The dragons welcomed me. I know it's true. You should know it's true if you have a brain at all. I'm telling you right here and now, there is major unveiling going on. I think Tyrion's a Targaryen. Maybe that's why we didn't get the full total of his conversation with Bran. Okay? So think on that a little bit. Just think on that. That's a blockbuster idea. I understand it's triggered some of you because my brilliance and my narrative supremacy has blown you away. But let's go back in. Basically, this episode started with Jaime Lannister's redemption tour. Tonight was about Jaime Lannister demonstrating, for anybody who didn't know, hey, I'm a different guy than I used to be. We start off with Daenerys confronting Jaime, hey, you killed my dad. And then we've got Bran, who doesn't even say, oh, and by the way, you shoved me off the wall. Creepy ass Bran just intones as he sits there, even though he hasn't told anybody, unless he told Tyrion, the things we do for love. Daenerys is mad over this situation. She says, I don't see an army, I see a man with one hand. Tyrion tries to get up and defend Jaime Lannister, and he is immediately shot down. Then we have Brienne of Tarth stands up and says, I would have been raped, but for him, he lost his hand defending me. And she says also to Sansa, by the way, you'd be dead if it weren't for Jaime Lannister. I swore an oath to your mother. And so we end up saying, you would fight beside him. Yes, I trust you, says Sansa. And eventually Jon says, we need every man we can get. And then Grey Worm gives Jaime Lannister his sword back. All right, so that's the beginning of the Jaime redemption tour. I think there's a good chance Jaime dies soon. Couple of other steps on the Jaime Lannister redemption tour. He then goes to join Bran later by the creepy tree with creepy-ass Bran. I'm sorry for what I did to you, Jaime says. I'm not that person anymore. I'm something else now, says Bran. He doesn't hold it against him. And so you won't be able to help us in this fight if I let them murder you first. That's Bran saying, well, I didn't tell him. What about afterwards, Jaime asks. How do you know there's an afterwards, says Bran. I believe those quotes are all correct. Interesting point here. Bran seems to know everything except exactly what is going to happen with this scenario in general. And then we get one more trip with Tyrion and Jaime on the Jaime Lannister redemption tour. We get Tyrion and Jaime saying that Cersei's pregnancy is real, meaning, Jaime, you are the father. You have sired another incest bastard baby. This is a great line. This is Jaime on Cersei. She's always been good about using the truth to tell lies. Great line there. And then Tyrion responds with, you always knew exactly what she was, and you loved her anyway, says Tyrion. Then Tyrion says he'd hoped that one day he was going to die with his belly full of wine and his dick in somebody's mouth. And then he says, maybe the only thing I have to look forward to is becoming a White Walker and going and killing Cersei. Finally, the Jaime Lannister redemption tour, almost complete, yet not quite. We still have a couple of dates left. He walks out to Lady Brienne, who will be commanding the left flank of the Winterfell army, and says, I'm not the fighter I used to be, but I'll be honored to serve under your command if you'll have me. And then, as if that were not enough, later everybody's all drinking around the fire, and I'll get to Tormund and how awesome those stories were in a minute. But first, we get the knighting by Jaime Lannister of Lady Brienne of Tarth. That represents, to me, his full-fledged redemption tour. I think that Jaime is going to die in the next episode. All of the signs are pointing towards yes, his narrative arc is complete. I don't know what else he has to do unless you believe that he's going to travel back, survive this battle, and ultimately end up killing Cersei. I'm not as convinced of that as I was before. I kind of like the parallel of him killing the Mad King and also potentially having to kill the Mad Queen before all was said and done. But I feel like this was so much detail with Jaime correcting all the wrongs of his life and saying goodbye to everyone that it feels artificial if he survives this battle. The only person, by the way, that is not at Winterfell, that seems like they should be at Winterfell now, is Bronn, who may still arrive after the battle. Or it would kind of be funny if he came rolling in right before the White Walkers, like as the last arrival for a little bit of humor in the final moments right before that. So that is the Jaime Lannister narrative arc. That's another good example. On Easter, basically, Jaime Lannister has come back to life. He's going to die for everybody's sins. He is the Jesus character of Game of Thrones. His narrative arc, that's assuming that Jesus has had incest sex with his sister and also shoved kids off of, castle walls. So it's not a perfect parallel on Easter, but it's at least a Jesus Christ-like allegory a little bit, all right? And so that is where we are headed here in the situation. All right. Now, a couple of other details that I think are significant. I went through the Jaime Lannister narrative redemption arc. All right. We got Daenerys questioning whether Tyrion should remain her hand. She says, "Are you a traitor or a fool?" "I'm a fool," says Tyrion. Eventually, Jorah comes to bat for him, and he ends up maintaining his hand status. Gendry, how about Gendry and Arya? Gendry all hot and sweaty there, caught in the fire. Oh man, look how hot that guy is. Look how strong he is after all that oaring he's been doing. That man is yoked. That man is ready to make a play. I loved their dialogue right before they had sex, the night before they think they're all going to die. Arya says, "Are you a virgin?" basically. He says, "I didn't keep count." And she says, "Yes, you did." And he immediately says, 3. Phenomenal dialogue and writing there. I didn't keep count. "Yes, you did," says Arya. 3. They end up sleeping together. Arya Stark loses her virginity with Gendry, who tells him, "Hey, by the way, I'm also potentially got a claim on the Iron Throne. I'm the bastard of Robert Baratheon." Other details that stand out. Let's say, the great line, "I know death. He's got many faces. I look forward to seeing this one," says Arya. Let's see. What else we got? Daenerys and Sansa. We have the Hot Girl Summit. They haven't been getting along. They didn't get along in season 1. We get a Hot Girl Summit between Daenerys and Sansa. Sansa says she doesn't really trust Daenerys because, quote, "men do stupid things for women. They're easily manipulated." And then Daenerys responds, "Well, okay, fine. But tell me who manipulated who. I'm here because I love your brother and I trust him." She says, "He's one of only 2 men that I've ever trusted." Sansa says, "Who was the first?" And this is pretty funny. Daenerys responds, "Someone taller," which is outstanding if you know how short Jon Snow is and how much that's become an internet meme. That's a pretty funny line that connects, obviously, with the internet community in general. But as they have the real crux of their conversation, what happens next? What happens in Winterfell if we survive, Sansa asks, and you end up sitting on the Iron Throne? We promise to never kneel for anybody else again. Well, boom, we get another interruption. Double cliffhanger. This is the first cliffhanger. Who's arriving? How about Theon without his dick? Theon arrives. He gets a big hug from Sansa. He's arrived from the Iron Islands, and he wants to let them know, "I want to fight for Winterfell." Big, shiny lights. This represents the culmination of Theon's narrative redemptive arc as well. And I think that we are potentially in danger here. Now, several things that have happened in the first couple of episodes. We keep hearing about the crypt. They keep being scenes in the crypt. The crypt is the safest place to be. The little girl who's going down into the crypt, it's like bright, shining lights flashing before our eyes. The crypt, the crypt, the crypt. I think there may well be a secret entrance through the crypts into Winterfell so you don't have to come in through the walls. And I made this prediction early. I think the Night King is a Stark, and I think all of the dead Starks are going to come back to life underneath Winterfell in the crypt. That is my prediction as well. All right. Tormund. Big Tormund arrives. Jon Snow says, "How long do we have before the sun comes up tomorrow?" says Tormund. Then immediately Tormund drops some amazing lines. The big woman still here. The big woman still here. And Tormund about to die. He's still chasing Brienne of Tarth. Then we get probably the biggest revelatory statements in tonight's episode. We have the War Council meeting, and creepy-ass Bran finally steps up and says, "The Night King will come for me. He wants to erase this world, and I am its memory." He says, basically, Bran does, that he wants to be the bait. And as part of being the bait, the Theon and the Ironborn will defend him. I predicted earlier in my column, I think that Bran may well warg himself into the Night King I think that Bran may well warg himself into the Night King and commit suicide, thereby ending the battle, because all of everybody else will die if the Night King dies. All right? This is my theory on how Bran will cease to exist. He will become one with the three-eyed raven. I think he will warg himself into the Night King, potentially could warg himself into the dragon and try and waylay people that way. I think that is a distinct possibility. I think that Bran has to die in order for the Night King to die. I think they are going to die. But by the way, motherfucker, I'm going to block this motherfucker. You're trying too hard. I'm giving my analysis of a goddamn television show. How can you try too hard when you are reacting to a fictional television show? Come on. Are you that stupid? You're blocked forever. You're trying too hard. You're trying too hard to react to a fake television show? Get a life. You idiots. These are my theories. I'm not saying they're all going to be true. Tried too hard. Yeah, I'm watching a fictional television show and trying to predict what's going to happen next, motherfucker. It's the definition of trying too hard. Jesus Christ. On Easter as well. Come on. Dead forever, that guy. Whoever that is. All right. So, we then have the question, what exactly is going to happen? I feel like Theon's going to die too because his narrative arc is connected. By the way, all the crazy ass shit that's happened in Game of Thrones, and you're telling me I'm trying too hard? Motherfucker, did you see the Red Wedding? If I had come on, I'd been like, hey, I think everybody's about to get killed in this big banquet room, including the pregnant woman. She's going to get stabbed in the stomach, and her pregnant baby is going to get killed while she gets killed. And then they're going to slit Catelyn Stark's throat. And then they're going to stab gorgeous-ass Robb Stark to death. And you're telling me I'm trying too hard? Did you watch season 1? Were you thinking to yourself, you know what? They're definitely going to chop Ned Stark's head off. If anything, in Game of Thrones, here has what we have learned. Nobody knows anything. Anything can happen. So don't tell me that I'm trying too hard for trying to make sense out of all this. Good Lord. Driving me insane here. All right. We get Tyrion and Bran. This is significant. Tyrion and Bran sit down by the fire, and they start talking. But we don't hear any of what their conversation entails. But we have pretty good, interesting dialogue here. Tyrion drags his chair over. He says, I want to hear your story. And then Bran says, it's a long story. And then Tyrion responds, if only we were trapped in a castle in the middle of winter with nowhere to go. What does Tyrion learn here? I feel like he has to learn something, okay? What exactly is he going to learn? We're not really sure. Does Bran tell him all about Jaime? Does he tell him, maybe, you're a Targaryen? Your dad is not who you think your dad is? Interesting to think about. Grey Worm and Missandei want to hit the beach. I don't know why is there anybody out there who's like, man, I really hope Grey Worm and Missandei, or however you pronounce her name, end up happy together. This is a storyline that I don't think anyone on the planet is like, hey, I really need an update on how that mercenary soldier without a dick and Missandei are doing. But they want to move to the beach and live together forever. So in case you were wondering, they want to move to the beach and live together forever. Jon and Sam are on the wall. What's the other guy's name? Who was the last of the castle keepers or whatever? What's that one guy's name? I always forget his name. You have Jon and Sam, and then you have who? You have Ed. Ed. Is his name really Ed? You have Ed, who is the last of the Night's Watch. Yeah, so I think that is actually pretty interesting. All right, Ed. Ed is up there. And I believe, am I crazy about this? I love how many of you know Ed. No, not Bondrick Dardarian, Ed. Did you guys notice, am I crazy or was Ghost on the wall too? Am I crazy or in the background there while they were talking was the Ghost there? the direwolf, Jon's direwolf. I think that the direwolf was there in the background, and everybody out there had not really noticed him, right? You guys got to catch up with me. I think that was whose direwolf was that? The direwolf was right there. If you guys didn't see it, right in the background, it was right there, I believe. And I'm curious whether that's going to be a significant part of this story. But everybody out there right now I believe there was a direwolf there. I think Ghost was there, unless Ghost died. I can't keep track of all the different direwolves, but in the background, they didn't reference him, but I believe that Ghost was right there. Ghost is back. I think Ghost was right there. Also significant, did you guys notice they made a big deal about Lyanna Stark's statue? She had a direwolf too. And I'm wondering whether in some way the direwolves that we saw in episode 1, season 1, I think when they found the direwolves, whether Lyanna Stark's direwolf might come back together. And so I think that was an interesting little detail as well. Then everybody starts drinking in front of the fire. All right, everybody is sitting around drinking in front of the fire. We end up with Podrick, Lady Brienne, Tyrion, Jaime, Davos, and Tormund. And Tormund brings his own horn of liquor. A man that I love. Tormund is there. And Tormund tips back his horn of liquor and just keeps drowning it. And he eventually tells a story about how he killed a giant when he was 10. And then he sucked on the giant's tit for 3 more months because she thought he was his baby. I have no idea what in the world is going on with Tormund, but he's just taken over the show now. It used to be Jaime's redemption tour. Then we come back to Jaime's redemption tour, and he knights Lady Brienne and makes her a knight, and everybody's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And then the Hound and Arya are out drinking. Everybody's drinking tonight. And he says, you never used to shut up. Now you're just sitting there like a mute. That's the Hound to Arya. When was the last time you fought for anyone but yourself? The Hound points out, I fought for you, didn't I? Then Bondrick Dondarrion shows up. Bondrick Dondarrion, the one-eyed guy who's been killed like 19 times, he shows up and he starts talking about, Bondrick Dondarrion shows up and he starts talking about the Lord of Lights. And basically the Hound is like, if you don't stop talking about the Lord of Lights, I'm going to throw you off of off this parapet here, and you are going to die again. And so that's the end of that conversation. And then they're back. Fuck tradition, says Tormund. The knighting goes on. Sam gives his Valyrian Silk sword to Jorah. He's going down into the crypts where it's supposed to be safe, and of course is not going to be safe. Podrick is singing a song. We get a medley of all the castle lovers. And then we get, like where I started this show talking about it, Daenerys and John in the crypts in front of the Lyanna Stark statue. My brother Rhaegar was supposed to be a good guy, but some people say he raped her. John says he didn't. He loved her. They were married in secret. My real name is Aegon Targaryen. Daenerys says it's impossible. He says, I wish it were. Then she says, if this were true as the last male heir, you'd have a claim on the Iron Throne. She also says it's very suspicious that your brother and your best friend were the ones who told you about this. And then right as they're discussing all of this, we get the horn blowing. The Night King has arrived. Everybody has arrived for the Battle of Winterfell, and the Night King arrives. And again, I think this is significant. Go back and watch the final minute of the show. If you've got it on your DVR or you got it on demand, go back and watch it. We get the zoom in, right? We get the zoom in where Jon and Daenerys walk out. And who is standing right in between them? It is Tyrion. And it's like a flashing light. I'm telling you, it's a flashing light saying Tyrion is a Targaryen. His dad was not, I'm telling you, this is my theory. His dad was not Tywin Lannister. There were 3 dragons. There are 3 Targaryens, I believe. Jon, who we now know, his real name is, what's his real name? His real name is Aegon Targaryen. Daenerys, who we've known throughout the entire show. And I believe Tyrion is a Targaryen. I think there are 3 Targaryens remaining. Aegon / Jon Snow, Daenerys, and Tyrion. I think Tyrion's dad, if you go back and rewatch the show, there are lots of hints, lots of clues that just maybe Tyrion is not a Lannister, he's a Targaryen. All right? I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. I'm going to go write a huge column reacting to this entire show now. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of you coming and watching me. Arya got the spear, the Darth Maul weapon. Yes, Gilly. Lots of all sorts of stuff going on. All right? I appreciate all of you. I love you guys. Kisses. Be back tomorrow. Battle. Maybe the greatest television show of all time coming next Sunday. Unless it gets leaked too. Did you guys see that episode 2 got leaked? If episode 3 got leaked, I want to watch it in advance. I'm not going to lie. I'll watch it immediately. I'll see you guys. Kisses. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I'll see you guys. Love you. Thank you. Bye, guys. Love you, Facebook.